And welcome everyone to today's lesson. Today's lesson is going to be a continuation of persuasive writing again. So we're going to start off with revising something that you took last year, which are the techniques for persuasive writing. Now, in the title, it says persuasive letter, but that's not necessary. It's not the only case. It can be any form of persuasive writing, not only a letter. So the mnemonic that we have is forestry, and each letter stands for something. All right, so let's start with F, which stands for facts. Always support your argument with plenty of facts to make sure your reader knows you know what you're talking about. Then we have O, which stands for an opinion. We express our opinion as a fact rather than using words such as I think or perhaps or maybe, okay? Why is that? Because if you say, for example, today's text is going to be about nuclear power. If I come to somebody and I say, well, I think nuclear power is bad, is that very persuasive? No, it's not. That's not the same as saying nuclear power is bad. So always present your opinion by making it look like a fact, okay? Then we have R, which stands for rhetorical questions, to get your readers thinking. These are questions that don't really have an answer or they have an obvious answer. For example, when talking about global warming, we ask, how much damage will it take before you decide to take action and save the earth? So here the writer is not asking you for an actual answer. They just want to get you moving, to trigger you, okay? E stands for emotive language. Use powerful words and images to provoke a strong emotion in your readers. For example, the earth is dying. Your children will inherit a planet beyond repair. Use strong words to make the reader feel strongly. Like if you say, for example, children in, I don't know, Africa, and excuse me for the example, are hungry. And if you say children are starving, do hungry and starving give you the same feeling? No, starving gives a stronger sense of hunger, and it makes the reader empathize more with you. S stands for statistics. Include statistics to make yourself sound knowledgeable. In just 20 years, some 5 billion people will not have access to food. So statistics and facts are basically the same thing. Every statistic is a fact, but not every fact is a statistic. So you can share a fact, but it's not necessarily numbers. Okay? And we have R, which stands for repetition. As you see with the triplets list, I use the words, I forgot the T. T stands for triplets. Organize ideas and example into lists of 3. For example, use less electricity, less water, and eat less meat. So 3 is a magic number. It's easier. Why do we use 3? It's just easier to memorize and remember. Then we have R, which stands for repetition. As you see in the triplets list, I use the word less 3 times. This emphasizes the point you want to make. So here, this person is emphasizing less, less, less. Okay, so it'll sort of like stick to your head. Then we have Y, which stands for you. When reading to persuade, it's a good idea to address the audience in second person as you. Why? Because you make the audience feel targeted. It's like you feel like the writer was talking to you when they were writing. Sometimes it's also okay to say we. If a writer is writing, it's okay to say we because it gives the readers a sense of we're all in this together. Okay, so now we remember the techniques. Let's move on to today's passage. Greenpeace, which is on page 34 of your literacy student book. We're going to talk about nuclear power today. Okay, so it says, let's just start from the second paragraph right here. It says, the following passages are concerned with issues relating to the use of nuclear power throughout the world and refer to the accidents at Chernobyl in 1986 and at Fukushima in 2011. The first 2 extracts are from the website by Greenpeace, an environmental organization opposed to the use of nuclear power. The third extract consists of educational material taken from the website of the World Nuclear Association, which represents people throughout the world involved in the nuclear profession. The writers of both sets of material clearly hold strong views and give arguments supporting their beliefs. So we have 3 pieces. We're going to read the first 2 here. And each of them are trying to prove the same thing. Nuclear power is bad, no need for nuclear power, it has bad side effects, etc., etc. So let's see if they have succeeded in persuading us, okay? Okay. I just want to point out something. Sometimes in the techniques, in the persuasive writing techniques, even alliteration is used. For example, an ad, remember, like we mentioned the last time, ads are a form of persuasive writing. So when you say Kit Kat or Dunkin' Donuts or like any form of alliteration, it's good for persuasive writing. Why? Because it's easier to remember. Look at the title of the first extract. It says push for no new nukes. So we have alliteration here. No new nukes. N. It's easy for you to remember the title. Okay? Okay. Nuclear power is neither safe nor clean. There is no such thing as a safe dose of radiation. And just because nuclear pollution is invisible does not mean that it is clean. If a meltdown were to occur, the accident could kill and injure tens of thousands of people, leaving large regions uninhabitable. And more than 50 years after splitting the first atom, science has yet to devise a method for adequately handling long-lived radioactive wastes. For years, nuclear plants, now they don't really mean a nuclear plant here, do they? They mean a nuclear factory. A plant can sometimes be used as the meaning of factory, have been leaking radioactive waste from underground pipes and radioactive waste pools into the groundwater sites across the UK. In order to save the future of our planet, see, this person is using emotive language here, okay? In order to save the future of our planet, we must continue to fight the expansion of nuclear power and instead push for clean, renewable sources of energy. The first piece is very clear. It's the point of the writer is very clear. Do you think they're with or against nuclear power? They're obviously very much against. Okay? Okay. Greenpeace 2, Chernobyl, distorted reality and unanswered questions. Look at the emotive language here. Distorted, ruined, shattered, not intact, okay? Distorted reality and unanswered questions. This is a blog post by Iris Chang in 2011. We have just returned after completing an important mission in Ukraine, taking around 70 journalists from 18 countries with us to Chernobyl, nearly 25 years after the nuclear catastrophe. It was one of the largest media trips Greenpeace has organized. These seasoned journalists asked critical and insightful questions, and none of them were easily moved. So the writer, first of all, started with emotive language. Then they gave an opinion. They said that it's an important mission, right? For somebody else, maybe it's not that important, right? Okay, these seasoned journalists, what do you think she means by seasoned journalists? It means they've seen a lot of things. So not everything they see really affects them anymore. So what they saw here in Chernobyl, the fact that they were affected just goes to show how bad the situation really was. Okay? Sorry. I don't know why it is. Wait. Okay. Okay, so what does she continue to say? But many of them were deeply disturbed. Emotive language, okay? Now, she's saying they were seasoned journalists. They weren't easily moved. But when they saw what they saw in Chernobyl, they were deeply disturbed. Okay, they were deeply disturbed by what they saw and heard, often by the mundane details that were mentioned matter-of-factly by the interviewees. Like how every year the Ukraine government needs to spend between 6 and 8% of the fiscal budget to cope with the consequences of Chernobyl. Sorry, let me just press. Okay. Like how tens of thousands of Ukrainian children need to be sent away every year to uncontaminated areas for at least a month in order to allow the body to get rid of some of the cesium-137 accumulated through eating everyday food like milk, mushrooms, berry jam, and meat. So it's very evident what this writer did here with like, and we're going to see like and like here as well. A lot of likes. Repetition. He's trying to give us examples and she's trying to make it easy for us to remember them. Okay, so we have repetition here. All right. What else do we have? We have statistics, 6 and 8% of the fiscal budget. This is statistics, right? We have milk, mushrooms, we have alliteration, don't we? Okay. All right, let's continue. We have milk, mushrooms, and even meat, even though there's a couple of words in the middle. Like how food sold in every market needs to be tested for radionuclide like cesium and strontium. Like how children of Rakuten get tonsillitis several times a year because their immune systems are compromised by radionuclide. According to the deputy head doctor from the district hospital, 2/3 more statistics of the population of 53,000 he cares for are affected by cesium-137 contamination in food. Rakuten is 300 kilometers away from Chernobyl on the other side of the country. Can you imagine being 300 kilometers away and still being affected by it? Wow. Like how the local health and sanitary stations in some areas need to make maps to tell local communities where the radiation hotspots are, and thus it's unsafe to go. Do you think he means Wi-Fi hotspots here? No, he means areas that are concentrated with radiation. Like how in school, children are taught the practical steps of radiation safety and to do emergency drills with gas masks. Like how young expectant mothers get advice about what food they need to avoid in order to minimize radionuclide uptake, which causes deformity in the developing fetus, the developing baby. They need frequent checks, and if the fetus develops deformity, then it may have to be aborted. Like how it is considered impolite to ask workers building the new sarcophagus about their personal radiation dose. If it reaches the limit, then they cannot work, which means they lose their job. Sarcophagus is, so what they did for Chernobyl is that they tried to cover the factory with, like, imagine it like a big coffin. It's called a sarcophagus. So what's happening to the sarcophagus is that it's starting to wear down. It's getting really old, so the radiation is starting to leak. So they're trying to building a new one. And if you work in the new you're working in the new sarcophagus trying to build it, and you get exposed to enough radiation, then you're going to have to be not fired, released, from your job because it's too dangerous. Like how it is considered impolite to ask workers building the new sarcophagus about their personal radiation dose. If it reaches the limit, then they cannot work, which means they lose their job. Like how radioactive waste containment and management had become an important sector of the economy because of the Chernobyl disaster. The original sarcophagus, hastily built in the months after the accident, is meant to only last 25 to 35 years and is now at risk of collapse. Underneath, the destroyed reactor is still on site and cannot be dismantled because of its extreme radioactivity. The consequences of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster lie in these mundane everyday facts. Life for these communities is brutally distorted, emotive language for centuries to come. However, when I returned to Ukraine, I was hit. Emotive language. He used a metaphor here. It's almost the reality hit him in the face. Nuclear proponents now claim that, despite the fact that the situation in the Fukushima nuclear plant is still not under control, despite the massive amount of radionuclide water dumped into the sea with unknown consequences, Fukushima proves that nuclear energy is safe because so far no one has been killed by the radiation. Imagine that. I want them to say that. So what is she saying? What is Iris saying? They're saying that it's safe because nobody's been killed. She's saying, I want them to say that to the Ukrainian doctors and parents who are told that the state can now only afford to send children away for breaks in clean airs for 18 days per year. She used facts here. Nuclear supporters probably don't know that it takes 50 days for the body of a child and 100 days for an adult to get rid of half of its radioactive cesium-137. So 18 days is not enough. I want them to say that to the public health officials who are struggling to find funding to continue monitoring food contamination. Repetition. I want them to say that to the young woman who was told that her favorite fruit, that her favorite fruit is the blueberries from the forests. She knows they're contaminated, but she could not help but eating them sometimes. I want them to take human life more seriously. There are 442 nuclear plants in the world. More facts today, and the majority are aging. There will be leaks, Power outages, human errors, design flaws. The nuclear industry has no solutions to the radioactive waste problem. How many more life-crippling, to cripple you, to stop you in your place, emotive language, how many life-crippling nuclear disasters will it take before the world gets rid of this outdated, dangerous, and unnecessary technology? Triplets, 1, 2, 3. And at the same time, this is also a rhetorical question. How many life-crippling nuclear disasters will it take before the world gets rid of this? This is a rhetorical question. She's not really asking for the answer, but she wants us all to think about it, right? And to start moving, okay? So this is it for the text. I'm sorry. Today was a bit long. Then we have the questions. They're very clear. You don't need me to read them for you. If anybody has a question in the questions, then don't hesitate to contact me on Seesaw. So this is it, guys, for Greenpeace. Thank you very much.